Hey. Hey. Not funny.
I watched a movie recently, and I'm getting fuzzy. You mentioned that I'm getting fuzzy.
Yes,
These two things are not related.
There seems to be a growth on the lower half of your head.
Yes, like a moss, a bit of a. I've sat still too long.
Yeah, is this the Vice movie?
Yeah.
Got
That
under your
movie,
skin?
But that absolutely got under my skin. It left a big impression on me. And I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what it is. I'm amazed that I never saw this film before. Have you seen it? It's the story of Dick Cheney.
Mm-hmm.
And he is played by Christian Bale, which, right? Not exactly expecting that. There's some scenes where there's definitely 5 o'clock shadow on top of Christian Bale's head. So, indicating that, he didn't have, Christian Bale does not have the receding hairline needed to play Dick Cheney, but he did an amazing job, got his mannerisms down. Steve Carell played Donald Rumsfeld.
Really?
Yeah. It's really easy to forget what kind of a person Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld were. And, every movie's got its levels of fiction, but this is a really strange person. I mean, I think that the ultimate takeaway is that Cheney is an incredibly, an incredibly willful person who found the will to do a lot more than he would have. Because of Lynn Cheney, because of his wife. But essentially, he is just a drunk, and she
Be careful
says,
where you level those accusations.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean like a drunk on a different level, like just getting blackout drunk and then driving home and ending up in jail, time after time. Flipping cards, down on the corner.
Flipping cards or
flipping
cars?
Flipping cards. Cards. I don't know. Some kind of game.
Okay.
Some kind of game. They don't go into it. And he dropped out of Yale, ended up as a lineman out in Wyoming. And his wife basically said, I didn't sign up for this. You're supposed to make something yourself. Either do that or I'm leaving. And he said, I'll do it. So, and, Christian Bale tends to portray people who are sort of at that extreme level of, achievement. Batman, that psychopath in the Bret Easton Ellis story. And
he played,
Dick Cheney.
Interestingly enough, him and Steve Carell are both in The Big Short.
Right, of course.
Christian Bale plays Dr. Michael J. Burry, M.D., who's the guy with the Asperger's syndrome, who basically sleeps underneath his desk, and so. And I thought which was fat. I don't know that fabulous portrayal. It's a really good movie, and Steve Carell I thought was fabulous in that movie.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He's really good as Donald Rumsfeld. It's a really interesting film. Actually, if you like The Big Short, it's very similar. And I think I saw The Big Short, but in the worst situation, like on a plane or something, or in a hotel room. I need to watch it again because I keep confusing it with Margin Call, which is Giovanni Ribisi. Really different.
Oh yeah,
different...
Margin Call. That's the one with Kevin Spacey and Jeremy Irons, and has, I think, some of the most perfect scenes I've ever seen in a movie. That whole boardroom scene where Jeremy Irons enters for the first time and they have that whole conversation. It's just an extraordinary, just so intense. It's just no music, nothing. It's just dialogue and camera shots. Anyway, I go on and on. Vice.
Vice. It really feels like the movie should be called Dick, honestly. It really does. I mean, yeah, it sort of describes him.
And it's
And then
sort
it's
of,
what's
yeah, it's an unflattering film. Let's put it that, I think is.
not necessarily unflattering. This is a person you've never met. You know, there are people out there you may never meet. They're not like other people. And they're not unusual in normal ways. They're unusual in unusual ways,
Okay.
meaning they're not unusual because they have Asperger's syndrome or something else that you've come across. There are people like Dick Cheney that are unusual in unusual ways. So, and people like Donald Rumsfeld, same kind of thing. So you get that sense from this film. And yeah, I found it fascinating. It also was really interesting because this is long before the movie was made, before Liz Cheney took her position during the Trump administration. So a lot of things have changed. And
But Liz Cheney was his wife or his daughter?
Lynn Cheney. So there's Lynn Cheney, Liz Cheney, so the two daughters, Liz Cheney and Mary Cheney, and then the wife, Lynn Cheney. Lynn Cheney was also a politician. Yeah, I believe she ran. I think she was represented in Wyoming, or she ran for Dick at one point and helped him get into office, become a senator when he was having heart attacks. He has heart attacks throughout the film. It's a completely bizarre film, gotta say. But I was really impressed by it. Really impressed by it. It just, yeah, I hadn't seen anything like that in a long time. Maybe if I watch, was not Margin Call. What was the other one? The Big Short.
The Big Short,
Yeah.
which is not a great film, but a very interesting. It's worth watching.
That is all I got, and I led with it. So I'm done.
Well, the movies I
nothing.
watched, I didn't watch such heady fare.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a completely ridiculous film that I found totally enjoyable. It has absolutely no redeeming social value in any way whatsoever. It's Mordecai with Johnny Depp. I had never heard of this film in my entire life.
Mordecai.
Yeah, Mortcai or Kai. And it's this ridiculous, it's sort of Austin Powers meets, I can't, it's just a stupid, silly film with Johnny Depp basically doing Captain Jack Sparrow, except now he's he's sort of like a minor British nobleman. It takes place in the current day, and his wife is Kate Winslet. And he's well, actually, he's not a nobleman. He presents himself as a nobleman, but he's basically just an art thief and an art scumbag. But he's hilarious, and it's very funny, and it's it's got all your classic British actors in it. And I'm not going to say anything more about them because it's completely worthless. But you know what? It was a completely enjoyable film. I didn't feel bad at any point during watching the film, and I had a great time. What I also did, which was interesting, is I went back and I read Isaac Asimov's award-winning book, The Gods Themselves. Did you know anything about the story?
No, I haven't read that.
He wrote it in 1972, which was considerably after some of his earlier efforts.
Yeah.
Won all kinds of awards. The title comes from a quote from Schiller. The quote is, "Against stupidity, the gods themselves contend in vain." And basically what the book boils down to, I mean, at the core of it, is that Earth has discovered this magical source of energy. It's almost like a wormhole or something. And he doesn't go into great detail, thank God. He doesn't go into great technological detail to discover how, but something's happening that's generating all this energy that Earth desperately needs. And what it's revealed is that it's basically a wormhole between a parallel universe and our universe.
Right.
And so energy is flowing from the parallel universe to our universe. But what slowly is revealed is that it's killing our universe. That the two universes have two completely different sets of physical laws, and that's what creates the imbalance that all this energy comes in. But as the energy comes into our universe, it starts bringing their laws into our universe. Their laws start and yeah, it's bad. But people can't stop because it's just gigajoules of free, clean energy. And nobody wants to talk about the fact that this may actually mean the end of the solar system, if not,
interesting.
Part of the galaxy. And so the book is in 3 parts, and that's the first part. The second part goes to the other galaxy. And it's this fascinating, it's him doing a deep dive trying to explain a really alien race. And it's really cool. It's really cool seeing Asimov trying to grapple with this. And I don't want to, there's no point in me even trying to explain it. But the key thing is that it's really out there. Like it's not Star Trek where they look like human beings and they just have like a lot of makeup on their heads. Right. It's like, it's really different. Like they're mostly insubstantial creatures that, to create offspring, there has to be 3 of them. And it just goes on and on and on. And then the third part, so the first part is very much obsessed with the issue of the discovery of technologies and who claims credit for it, and how stupid people get in charge of scientific discoveries, and that, the wrong people get to guide scientific exploration and get to claim all the glory. That's sort of the big theme of the first part. The second part is dealing with this alien race and all this discussion of various things. And then the third part is about, takes place on the moon. And theoretically what it is that some of these these humans who are opponents of the guy who discovered, I think it's called the electron pump, they have suspicions about where the electron pump came from. They have suspicions about what it's doing to our universe, and they want to test out those theories. So this guy comes to the moon. That doesn't sound very interesting, except most of it revolves around this guy from the Earth striking up this relationship with this woman on the moon. And it's a very bizarre relationship. She's a tourist guide, but she's being manipulated by some people on the moon. And then there's all this tension between the moon and the Earth. And she's basically like an agent provocateur for this sort of moon-based independence force, but she gradually comes to like this guy from Earth more and more. And so all of this is to say, this is the fun part about going back and reading these books, is that at one point, the people, the creatures in the alternate universe send a message to the scientists and say, you've got to stop.
Yeah, cut it out.
You've got to stop doing this. You're going to blow yourselves up. You're not going to hurt us.
Right.
But you're going to really, our universe is already drained down because there's differences. There's differences in certain physical constants, and their universe is just filled with very few very dim stars. They only see like 5 stars in the sky at night because everything is so far apart and all the stars. And Asimov gives a very convincing explanation. It has something to do with about the strong, I think it's the strong nuclear force is different.
Yeah, right. Yeah, one variation. That's great.
Right. And so these people in the other universe say, look, it ain't hurting us, but you're committing suicide by taking this. Stop it right now. And I was like, oh, wow. 3-body problem. It's the exact same thing as 3-body problem. Don't send any more messages. Stop talking.
The dark forest.
The dark forest. Don't reply to this message. Stop sending transmissions, which was really fascinating. It's like that. And then in the third part where they're talking about going to the moon, and he's talking to this woman, and she has, the moon people have brittle their bones. They can't go back to Earth, but Earth people can come up to the moon, and there's all this resentment. I'm like, it's the Expanse. It's like, it's so. Now, I'm not saying that the guys from Expanse read the gods themselves. I'm not saying that the guy who wrote 3-Body Problem read the gods themselves. But it's just interesting how these things keep coming up. But they're really close. Like the phraseology and the way it's presented. You know, the idea of an Earthman and a woman who lives in space come to appreciate each other's viewpoints and work together to try to reconcile. It's like,
right,
okay,
Mars
yeah,
and
it's
Earth
the
and the
expanse.
Belters and
It's the freaking expanse. And so it was a blast. And it's very, very interesting reading Asimov struggling with this stuff. And it's one of those things where some of his writing really is tedious, but you keep with it. You do keep. There's other people whose writing is tedious, and you're just like you're flipping pages. Like, okay, when's some action going to actually occur in this plot here? But he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He's a very interesting writer. What's really interesting is that the third section, it's really sexist. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Sounds like he's like it sounds like there's a big chunk of him that's still writing like pulp science fiction books from the late 1950s, you know, where the guy just slings the woman over his shoulder and, you know, walks off into the sunset.
One man for 49 women.
Yeah. It's
Mars.
just like, Mars attacks. But at the same time, he sort of subverts it himself because you realize that she's smarter than everybody. And she's very defiant, and she challenges him all the time. It's really, and so that's the nice thing about Asimov is that he surprised me. He really did. Interesting book, worth a visit. I read that. I watched Mordecai. Did I watch any other films? I thought I watched another film that I thought was really good. I can't remember now.
Well, I'll tell you what I did this past weekend. Give you a break, but
okay.
And this can be a short episode. We've never done a short episode. It'd be interesting if we could. Went apple picking, and we always go to the same place. But it makes me wonder. I mean, if we really had infinite time, if we could get further away, I know there are more interesting apples to pick. Like Julia last week was talking about the Rainette Plachette, you know, the Queen's apple or something in hobo speak. You don't remember this? Yeah. Well, I remember
the conversation, but the conversation was completely incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, Rainette Blouchard or something, whatever Acadian, you know, talk is for, you know, this particular apple. But the name of the apple is something like that. And yeah, there are these varietals that I never tried because I always go to the same orchard. And of course, they might plant one new varietal every 6 years, but they're trees. You know, they need time to grow. So we were late in the season, but it's been warm, so there hasn't been a frost. So they've been fine. It was a really good season. And some of them were great. The Cortlands and I was saying in the previous episode that my favorite were the Spartans. It's not true. It's the Spencers. If you can ever find the Spencers, those are amazing. We had a lovely walk, you know, around the orchard picking. I always end up carrying the bag, which ends up being like 60 pounds.
Because I remember you telling me last time I joined you for apple picking last year, and you said it wasn't a great year because there was too much water, and everything was watery.
Yes,
which was true.
Yeah, the apples they just weren't very flavorful. They were all, you bite into them, and it would be all the structure of the apple with liquid, right? The juice of the apple would be there, but there wouldn't be much tartness or sweetness in the juice. So I think there are other flavors that come through in different apples, but we couldn't really get any of the flavors of any of the apples that year because there was a late spring freeze, I think. Yeah, like a late spring freeze.
So what about this year?
This year was much better. Yeah, it was no impediment to the growth of the apples, and the Spencers are really good, and the Macoons are really good, and there were a couple of other the Mushu, which I don't usually like. Those are great. Matsu, which I don't usually like, were delicious, sort of in their own way. Astrid is really into. My youngest is really into Macintoshes.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's just, you know, wandering around the orchard, like finding an apple to pick is just sublime. It's just such a nice activity to do with a group of people.
Yeah, it was lovely when we
Harvest time. Yeah.
do you do anything special with the apples? Like, do you make pies out of them and preserves, or do you just like pile them up in a corner and just eat them as you go along?
We eat a surprising number of them. We do like 2 apples a day, but it's still, you come home with, I don't know how many apples, like 60 apples or something. So yeah, there'll be, I think, probably 2 pies. Maybe I'll make cook them in with some pork chops or something. Yeah, it's good. We have a spiralizer, so you can kind of chop them up that way. Don't have a peeler.
Okay.
Spiralizer, it just it makes one big long strip, like a spiral strip out of the apple.
Out of the entire apple, not
Out of the
just
entire
peeling
apple, yeah.
it, but the whole thing.
You have to manually peel it, then core it, and then just you put it in the spiralizer, and then the meat just becomes this continuous spiral. We haven't made an apple pie that way, but I feel like it would be pretty good because it comes out pretty thin. So looking forward to that. And then there's Halloween tomorrow. Do you think you're going to get any trick-or-treaters where you are?
I've subcontracted that out to my daughter.
Very good.
Yeah, I figure, she's younger. She can connect with the younger generation better. And she's going to come over and she's going to man the candy canisters and all that kind of stuff. I'm fine with it. I want somebody in the foxhole with me.
Okay.
When it comes to Halloween, I don't want to face the raving hordes alone.
You don't want to put on a really old, ragged, oil-stained overcoat, mess up your hair, get some like soot on your face, and then answer the door with a giant shotgun. That'll give them a scare.
Yeah, that'll show. No, I want to be nice. I want kids to be happy.
That's true.
It's just I just like having somebody there with me. So I think Lily has tentatively agreed to show up tomorrow. But that's the big thing happening. I'm going to be going down to New Jersey pretty soon to visit to visit somebody down in New Jersey. Today's weather was beautiful. I read another book. I've been on this kick, because we did that thing where you and I watched the original Day of the Jackal.
Yeah.
And that was, I believe, Frederick Forsyth.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his other famous books is The Odessa File. So it's all these corny old action things.
Yeah.
Like James Clavell, like Shogun.
Yeah.
Which has been remade.
I actually want to see that.
It looks really good. I've seen like 10-minute excerpts. It looks really good.
Yeah,
but
I watched a couple of episodes, and it's definitely good. I don't know what network it's on. I've forgotten. But yeah.
But I read those books when they came out. That's James Clavell. Shogun is the first one. Then there's Taipan, and then there's, I think, King Rat, and then there's Noble House.
Mm-hmm.
And they go all the way from I think, late 1600s up to like the 1970s.
Wow.
And it all takes place around Hong Kong, roughly Japan and Hong Kong in the far east. It's really interesting, all that stuff. But it's just interesting going back and reading these guys who wrote like the Bourne, those Bourne books. That's Robert Ludlum, I believe.
Right,
wrote
of course.
The Bourne books. They were written in the 70s. Which to me feels like yesterday, but now it's like, it's 50 years ago. So it's interesting to go back to those books because that has proliferated into a huge genre, like all these action adventure films, with the CIA or, SEAL Team 6, Hitman films. I mean, there's millions of these films. And it's interesting to see them go all the way back to the taproot, which are these guys like, I want to find out who really the first person was, but I think it's like these guys like Ludlum, not really Clavell, but definitely Ludlum and Frederick Forsyth are way there at the beginning with this whole thing, and that leads to like Tom Clancy and stuff like this whole military tech, sort of the very sort of precise,
like
technical.
Robert Blake Whitehill's, right? Robert Blake Whitehill has, we start out, we're not aware that the main character has a specific set of skills, which is usually how it's described. I have a specific set of skills,
right?
And I will use it to destroy you and your team.
And then there's jokes, and then there's like jokey versions of it, like Red, R.E.D., the one with Bruce Willis and John Malkovich. Did you ever watch that?
No, Red?
Retired,
No.
Extremely Dangerous with Bruce
no,
Willis.
I never saw that.
Oh, no, it's Bruce Willis, and what's her name? Who's, I forget the woman's, she's fabulous. I forget the woman's name because I'm not really going to, you've got to watch Red. It is a complete and utter guilty pleasure. It's eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's Americone Dream all by yourself. It's just
okay.
What's her name?
I'll tell you in just a minute. Schwenke is the director.
Right.
Oh, it's Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren
and Mary Louise Parker.
Morgan
Freeman.
And Paul Giamatti, I think, is in it too.
Oh, is he? I don't see him
Yeah,
yet.
and the guy who's in The Boys, the guy who's the protagonist
Carl
in
Urban.
The Boys.
Carl Urban.
Yeah.
And yeah. Like, what is, I love that when Bill was on, it was like, what is that accent? It's like a New Zealander trying to be Scottish. Yeah.
Oh, a great film.
Yeah, I don't see Paul Giamatti, but all right, looks like fun. Never heard of it. Red.
Oh, and it's completely reprehensible. Has no redeeming social value whatsoever.
Have you ever seen, and this is a long project if you get into it.
Okay.
But it, again, like Vice, it's really relevant. And the reason I brought up Vice is it's relevant to what's happening today in a very strange way. And we tend to, it's amazing how we've forgotten about the Bush administration and what went on during it. And, frankly, the Nixon and Reagan administration, because Dick was part of all of that. But also sort of similar, very resonant with what's happening today is The Americans. It was on AMC, I think. And
is that it's the Russian spies?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the husband and wife team who are travel agents in Washington, D.C.
Yes, but I thought it was based on a Cambridge couple, like here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They were Russian spies discovered.
And so you want to watch that? I mean, that was a huge.
I did watch it.
You did watch it.
Yeah, I watched the whole series. Not like this week, just a while ago. But I've been thinking a lot about it recently.
Why?
Just the notion of what I think they do really well in that series is portray people that are, to their own detriment, just so incredibly loyal to their government. They sacrifice everything in order to fulfill the mission. And that it's just, it's not like a spy novel where it's like, he's a steely man, he has no feelings, you shoot him in the chest and he keeps running. They feel like real people with a lot of training and the ability to do horrific things. They're true believers. It's sort of, they really believe the United States is going to starve all the people in Russia and they want to stop them.
Yeah.
They're manipulated by their handlers. It's sort of a tragic tale. You get to the end of it and you're like, oh, all of that. And
because the end of it is the
like
Soviet Union dissolves, right? That's probably the end of the series.
No, the end of it is they return home and they have like a view of Moscow and it's cold and bleak and welcome home. And their daughter stayed behind. I'm giving away something big, but yeah, I don't know. I just found it really tragic and amazing.
Do you think it's truthful? Is it based on truth or is it just people making stuff up?
I mean, no, probably just people making stuff up. But there have been agents from the Soviet Union during that time. They were posing as regular American families, and to do that, they just get into what it would take to actually do that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to actually, if anybody's willing to talk about it, In the problem, to do that, you got to be like a really different person. I mean,
Right.
if I steal a napkin off of, if I steal a fork out of a restaurant, I'll obsess about it for the rest of my life. I can't imagine living that kind of life for 5 minutes.
Right.
I'd be so completely terrified. But I guess, like you said, it's all about conditioning, what you're brought up to believe. And if you're, I don't know, it'd just be really interesting. I wonder if there's a good autobiography. I wonder if there's a good thing where somebody really talks about this at length and says, hey, this is sort of what it's like to do this. Because I'm sure there's people for America who do this in other countries too.
Sure.
Is it the money?
No, I think there's patriotism involved, I suppose. You're doing something that matters, right?
That's
So you're
really
being
tough.
handled also. You're being handled. It's
Sure.
really strange.
And you're not trusted.
No, you're not, right? You're not really trusted by your handlers.
Oh, no, they don't trust you at all because
No.
they're, are you a double? Have you been turned?
Or are you just like fond of where you live and your situation? You've got kids here now, right?
Yeah.
Can you turn them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's so creepy. So have you seen any of the series?
No. I may have seen like a 1-minute snippet at some point.
Okay. Yeah, Matthew Rhys is great, and Kerry Russell is fantastic. She's really good.
Yeah, what was I reading something recently about this? Let's have one whole second. I'm sorry, you can chop this out. What was that? That was that. It was I was watching. I'm sorry, I was watching Slow Horses.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Did we discuss that on the show
The
here?
scene, you're all useless. Yeah, I love.
Oh my God,
I haven't seen the third season, but I've seen the second season.
I sent that 30-second clip to everybody at work because we were going through our annual departmental retreat where everybody gets together to do like trust exercises and stuff like that. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I sent people. I said, this is what I said. If I were allowed to step up to the microphone, you're fucking useless. A lot of you. Working with you has been the lowest point of my disappointing career. Okay, Cartwright, you're with me. Let's go.
So, just for context, the context of that is they're standing at the grave of their
William
fallen,
Blake.
Of William. Oh wait, isn't it one of their fallen?
No, they're meeting up at the I think the graveside of William Blake, the famous British engraver and author.
Right. Okay. But they're getting ready to do something really difficult.
This is a climactic moment. In the series.
And he's like, "Look, I'm just not that good at
giving these
sort of speeches."
But I feel. Then he goes. He says, "I feel, but I have a feeling that this is a really big thing, and if this all goes to shit, I may never see any of you again. So you're fucking useless." The lot of you.
It's beautiful.
Just look it up on YouTube.
And you know he's loving this. You know,
and Gary Oldman is having
the
time of he's channeling because he played George Smiley and he played Winston Churchill.
Yes,
and he's channeling every single gesture he does. It is one of the most sublime 30 seconds in the world.
Yeah.
I want to send that to everybody in the world and say, this is the kind of motivational speech you really need. You're fucking useless.
A lot of you.
A lot of you.
Yeah. Well, should we go try and find him? No, you'll probably just get killed. Stay here. Go hide in a closet somewhere.
No, he says, what should we do? I go try to hide. My money, they're going to get to you in about 30 minutes. He says, probably the best thing for you to do is just chain yourself to a toilet. It's such a wonderful thing. It's totally overdone. It's really stupid. It gets really tired really fast. But there are some absolutely sublime moments And you can tell Gary Oldman is having the time of his life.
It's a great.
There's no guardrails. There's no constraints on him. He can do. There's another great thing where he meets with, what is it, Darth Tavener, Diana Tavener.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he meets with her.
MI6,
right?
Yeah,
and they meet in the park, and she says, and the park,
they have a bench.
There's a bench, and there's bird crap on the bench. She sits down, and she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna have to take this to the dry cleaner again." And Gary Oldman goes, "They do coats?" Because Gary Oldman's wearing this filthy over.
He really seriously makes you want him to take a shower so bad. His hair is like really dirty and stringy, and
right. And he says, "They wash coats," and she goes, "Yeah, and hair, and they fix teeth. Maybe you should check that out." Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch the third season of that. That seems like a good project.
I started watching the second season. Then like some guy starts getting tortured, and it looks like he gets killed. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm not really into this. I don't need anything really heavy at this point.
I'm trying to remember how the second season started. I guess I don't remember the story very well with it. I mostly just remember Gary Oldman's performance.
It's like Russians. There's Russians involved and all that kind of stuff like that. So what else have I got? Anything else? Nothing. I mean, Tenny suggested we read the Steerswoman book.
Steerswoman. Yeah.
And I just downloaded it. My Libby had it for free, so I just downloaded it 2 seconds
I'll grab
ago.
it. Yeah,
so
maybe I'll actually read it.
Yeah, we'll read it.
And then maybe we'll put together a time, Julia and Sarah again.
What?
I mean, the last book was really Sarah's, and I liked the four of us talking about a specific book seemed like it was a good time. So,
and is it really tedious editing? Because I noticed there's like jump cuts to like there would be close-ups on you. Is the software automatically doing that, or do you have to edit that?
The video, I'm letting the algorithm / AI, like whatever it is, do its thing. I'm not really trusting it with the audio. I may try that again. There's something called magic audio. I don't really believe that it's magic. But
you're such a cynic, Jim. Really,
it chooses, like if somebody's talking, it's not a big deal. Like right now, the software knows that I'm talking, and therefore there's a red line around me. And in this video editing program, it just highlights that. It just, you fill the screen for the time that you're talking.
Right. Okay.
The next person does. I imagine there's a number of different ways they could do that. I guess the amazing thing is how fast it happens. So you're really just saying, edit this for me. And they are cutting out a bunch of like ums and uhs and a bunch of other stuff like that. So the video edit is always going to be dramatically different than the audio edit. It's just, it's just not the same beast.
Huh.
The good news is once I go through the video edit, I know how many things, I sort of know the landscape of the audio edit. Although when there are 4 people and over an hour's worth of stuff, that I have to go through it a minute at a time and listen to everybody. And Julia's audio was all messed up. So she was like not synced up with everybody, and I needed to kind of jiggle that around and cut out these weird pauses between our conversation with her. So the audio with those pauses are handled by the AI or the algorithm on the video side, but on the audio side, it has to be done. And there's a lot of work being done by the limiter, the compressor, and the 2 EQs and de-esser that I have on, and noise gate. Somebody wrote us. This
about
is
our
funny.
Compression settings?
No. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. Joshua writes, FNF S5.08 in video. After listening to the first few minutes, I went to YouTube out of curiosity and found your video. I'd seen both of you before, so no surprises for me visually. The surprise was audible. In the video, I'm hearing someone breathing and sniffing.
Me.
That isn't either of you.
Oh, no, it's me.
And I don't hear that in the podcast version where the audio is much higher quality. What's up with that? And I had to write back to Joshua and say, look, we do not have a team of people.
Yeah.
You know, we have me. Yeah. So.
And not all of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have other things also that I'm doing.
We got other things to do. Okay. So we're lining up for Steerswoman, maybe doing that next time. Any other homework you got for me? I don't know if I can work up the gumption to watch Vice. Maybe I will.
It's an interesting film, but yes, it's upsetting and enraging. So if you don't want to, don't. And the truth is, right now, we don't need more of that. I don't know why I did that to myself, but I did, and it's done. What can I say?
What can I say? Oh, that's the good news. The next time we meet, this ordeal will be resolved one way or another. Or
it won't, and we'll know that we're in that wonderful limbo state that we learned about in the year 2000.
Yeah.
But look, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be unclear. I think it's going to be clear. So,
well, I hope so. But at least that's something to look forward to.
Well, I can touch base with you. My neighbors, who make excellent cocktails, have invited us over to eat mac and cheese and watch the returns. And I have to say, maybe you need to like fly over and spend some time at my neighbor's place, because they know how to handle traumatic situations with the right combination of comfy sofas and cocktails and food.
Well, I guess on that note, we'll call it a day, right?
Okay. Okay.
Funny Not Funny is produced by Jim Infantino at Slab Media in Boston. Lionel Casson is the co-host. Our website is funnynotfunny.bigego.com. The background music you're listening to is the song Hum from Utopia Revisited by Jim Infantino. The opinions presented by the co-hosts are ridiculous and should not be taken seriously by anyone. Our intended audience is literally nobody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should stop immediately and seek help. Please do not subscribe or leave a rating or review. It only encourages us to make more. Thanks for listening.
Jesus Christ.